What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I have some new news concerning Johnny Nelson, Anthony Joshua. Get this. Johnny Nelson defends the Anthony Joshua criticism. He said he'll look back and say, I was right. Johnny Nelson has stood by his recent criticism of Anthony Joshua and even believes AJ will come to agree with him in time. Nelson appeared on the episode of Up Front with Simon Jordan last week, where he doubled down on his comments. He said he's a former two-time heavyweight champion of the world. If you're still making those rookie mistakes now at 33 years old, you're a man. I believe he is bus driver, ticket collector, and passenger of his training camp. He says what happens and how it happens. He says when he's training. In years to come, he'll look back and say, Johnny, you were right there, because his motivation for fighting now, he's in no man's land. Okay. Those are the words of Johnny Nelson. And let me counterpunch. Unless Johnny has inside intel on how Joshua's camp was ran, I wouldn't say anything. But in defense of Johnny Nelson, I will say this. Robert Garcia did mention certain or similar things when he was in Joshua's camp of how it was ran. And he even wanted to go home because he did not like the way it was ran, because if it was ran the way Anthony Joshua wanted it to run, why was he there? And when I mean he, Robert Garcia. So that may be some truth to that, because that's what Robert claimed. Now, if Johnny has got his information from some other person besides Robert Garcia, that means that's even more people saying this is how I want it to run. And if that's the case, people, if Anthony Joshua is one of those prima donnas that don't want certain camps ran the way that's uncomfortable for him, he's no different than Deontay Wilder. Counterpunch. Because you guys remember when Wilder and Mark Breland and those guys, and Mark was just spilled the beans, him and his son, Anthony Breland, came on the channel and said, you know what? This is what was happening with my dad trying to train Wilder. And they told my dad, if you do, or if you make Wilder do these certain things, you'll get fired. Okay, so if that's what Johnny Nelson is saying, and he's getting that intel again from someone else other than Robert Garcia, we have a problem. Now, the question you ask yourself, though, this is what it comes down to. Yeah, if that happened back then, shame on Joshua, and that's why we seen the results or the lack of effort in his fights, because no one pushed him, right? Yes, that was said and done. However, that was done. That's in the past. What happens now? Where are we now? Or is Derek James allowing that same shit to occur? Is Derek James, is Joshua able to come to Texas and do what the hell he wants to do? Because that's the narrative. That's what I'm hearing from Johnny Nelson. It's different from doubling down on what you said before, but now you're saying, well, he wants it ran. He wants it to be this way or this, or that way. So that's the question. Is Derek James selling out for the cash or the big bucks from Anthony Joshua? Because, Errol don't make that type of money. Jermell sure the shit don't make that type of money. Frank Martin doesn't make that type of money. None of those guys have that type of power or income or revenue coming in there. So that's the question you ask yourself. Is Derek James on the take? Is he doing exactly what Robert Garcia did? Because obviously Robert Garcia said, yeah, I wanted to go home, but, and I told him to take me home. Well, he didn't go home, did he? Did they add another zero to that check? You know what I'm saying? So, is Derek James that type of person? Or is he a person like a Teddy Atlas? I don't give a shit what you think. And that leads to another question. If he is that type of trainer and he is just selling out for the money to get from Anthony Joshua, the question you ask, the first thing I think about is, How many people turned Joshua down when Joshua found out, you know, when he didn't, or when they didn't want to go along with his plans? Okay. Because he talked to a lot of people. You remember he was with Ronnie Shields, and forever everybody thought that he was going to go with Ronnie. He ended up going with Robert Garcia, and people thought that was kind of weird. And, you know, all the, you know, pro-black channels and shit. Oh, yeah, he could have got with the black dude, you know what I mean, all that. But it could have been not even about the black dude. It could have been the fact that Ronnie Shields wasn't going to allow Anthony Joshua to run this camp the way he was accustomed for it to be ran. Okay, that may have been what it is. But all, again, is still speculation. I honestly don't think that he's doing that. But based on the last performance, you know what I mean? You have to ask yourself, like, okay, how determined was Anthony Joshua in that fight? Yeah, he caught Jermaine Franklin. I'm going to watch that fight here in a little bit just to look back at it. But at the end of the day, at the very, very end of the day, like, what did Joshua do to learn things that he should have learned to make him more savage, to make him more aggressive, to make him more knowledgeable of the sport, to make him, you know what I mean, that guy that we thought that he was going to be going to Derek James? But anyway, you guys tell me what you think of Johnny Nelson's double downing and new intel of how Anthony Joshua expected his camps to be ran. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been Counterpunch. Peace!